Well, good morning, everyone. It's June 9th, 2025, and it's the favorite time of our week because it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody, my name's Paul.
Good morning, this is Bev.
Good morning, Bev.
Good morning,
I
Paul.
just realized when I said 6'9", that was the year I graduated. 69. I was the class of
Oh, yes, it
69.
was. Yes, it was. My brother as well. Yes.
That's right.
Yep,
So
same.
happy 6/9/25 to everybody. Hey, we're going to talk about BioTouch for birthing, okay? And a couple of reasons we're doing that. One, we had just had a doula take our class. Then we were listening to Zach Bush again talk about the whole mystical, physical, biological experience of birthing. And I think today we're going to put Bev on the little spot here. We're going to find out some of her deep, dark secrets. But first, let's give you Amber's testimonial about the class. She said, I took the BioTouch training in May to deepen my understanding of the technique and learn how to incorporate it into my work as a doula, supporting families before, during, and after labor. Paul and Bev are incredible instructors. Ah, thank you.
Thank you.
Knowledgeable, warm, and full of practical insights. I especially appreciated the use of the manual, visual learning videos, and the opportunity to practice the sets throughout the training. The experience was both educational and grounding, and I'm excited to integrate the gentle, healing touch of BioTouch into my doula care.
Oh, thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Amber. We enjoyed teaching you,
Yeah.
she came because her partner, her boss, basically, uh, had her take the class. She has a doula group out there. I'm not sure where that is. Is it Chicago area? No, I can't remember
Yeah,
where they
right.
are.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome. Now there's two of them in this same group when they're actually going to work on each other. And that just
Wonderful.
built on when we had a woman who was a doula trainer, Penny Bushel, and she wrote some information about BioTouch for pregnancy, labor, and postpartum care. And then when I was listening to Zach Bush and he talked about the emotional, the mystical, the spiritual experience of birthing, and I thought, well, let's turn to Bev because
Oh,
she's had that experience. Because we men can't have that experience. We, as a dear friend of mine says, we don't have the balls to go through birthing.
yeah, I
That was
agree.
so we're gonna turn this and ask her to talk about what your birthing experience was like, both the physical, emotional, spiritual parts of what you learned from this, and we can jump back and forth to some other information too. So
Yeah. Well, I had two children, two lovely human beings, and both pregnancies and birth experiences were different. I remember with my daughter, when she was born, they weren't letting any family into the rooms or anything. It was a different world then. And my husband was away, and my mother took me to the hospital. They would not let her in the room with me. She was very stressed out. I felt very alone.
hmm,
Um, I had taken some Lamaze, and thank goodness I remembered how to breathe because there was nobody in that room but me, and unless they came in to check, how I was dilating and all that. But otherwise, I felt very, very alone. If I had had BioTouch, I just gonna say right now, boy, I think the anxiety, the stress, the feeling alone would have not happened like that. I would have felt comforted and cared for. I know that. Um, and then with my son, it was a lot longer because everything was actually ready for the birth and he did not come out. It was the weirdest thing. Um, so I will say, as far as the spiritual experience, I I consciously was not aware of that. I can look back now
hmm
and say, wow, to give birth to another human being. I will say this. One of my teachers said the most important job that we will ever have, ever, is to raise another human being,
Hmm.
is to take responsibility for another soul. And when you give birth, you are literally, for both of you, mother and child, and the extended family, it is a new beginning. It is a new birthing, not just the physical, but the whole, and at that level, it is spiritual because, like we've said, there's not, I've been on a spiritual path for 20 years. When you come here, you are automatically on a spiritual path.
Right.
So we don't might not think about birth in those ways, especially with the mother, because she is, as you're going to read, she is more in survival mode and on many levels. Her body has a mind of its own
Interesting. Right.
and is preparing for that new beginning of a new life, that new breath, that it's a whole new journey. The awareness does not kick in at all. You just want that birth to happen. And so when I look at my children who are grown up and, of course, have children of their own now, I still have, it's like my body remembers.
Oh, interesting. Right.
My body remembers when I think about that. I think there is something men cannot experience, that connection, that deep. Because it is a physiological connection between the mother and the child. I was saying it was amazing when I read that during the evolution of the fetus, as it grows, our inner organs actually move. The heart moves up, the liver moves to the side. It just, the body is just this sympathetic whole system, knows what to do. And it's been going on for eons for all of us.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's the evolutionary process. Do you happen to recall at all? You said you can look back on it now and recall the birthing moment.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Actually, with my daughter, people go, ew. With my daughter in the delivery room, there was a huge mirror. And I actually saw her coming out. It was like surreal.
Wow.
That didn't happen with my son because they literally one step from a cesarean because he was bigger than my daughter. But with her, yeah, I actually got to see the whole birthing experience. It was like unreal.
Unreal. Right.
Unreal. Yeah. I'll never forget that image though, of that thing coming out of my body. I was like a host or something. Oh, and boy, could I have used BioTouch and just the whole journey. I mean, I'm so happy that we are able to give this to midwives and doulas who are a part of that journey with women and their families. Because,
right.
They can surely show the dad and the siblings how to do that with mom.
Yeah, and I think that's the key here.
Yeah.
So let's go over a few of these things, and then you can jump in with more of your experiences. This is from Penny. She's a doula instructor. The first thing she talks about is, and you can get this online. I posted it on our Facebook here and YouTube, but go to our research page, justtouch.com/research, and then down at the bottom is this whole PDF file called BioTouch for Pregnancy, Labor, and Postpartum. First thing she talks about is the physiological impact of touch, or BioTouch specifically. She says touch activates oxytocin and endorphins, two important components that the body produces for labor to progress. So it's interesting here. We're talking, these are physiological things that are going on.
Right.
She goes on, I'm not reading this whole thing. She goes on to talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic arousal. She says labor pain can lead to sympathetic arousal, which produces tension in the circular fibers of the uterus and rigidity at the opening of the cervix. Touch can lead to parasympathetic arousal, which relaxes the circular fibers of the uterus and stimulates the vertical fibers, thereby allowing effacement and dilation to proceed. And that's what
Boy,
you were
could I have
talking about
used
with
that.
your son, yeah?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Even though they both were at a point where I could give birth, for some reason, if there was a freeze going on, and the he was unable to, come down into the birth canal for some reason. I'm quite sure that after hearing that, what Penny wrote, that if I'd had been able to have biotouch at that time, I'm quite sure the birth would have been a little bit different. I hate to even mention this, but he had to use forceps. In those days, they were doing that
Right.
and pulled him out like you see them doing with horses. Or,
Right.
they,
I watched
yeah,
enough of the midwives to see that numerous
yeah,
times.
right.
So, Derek, you've been pulled out into this world and
I'm telling you, screaming and kicking.
kicking and screaming. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting too. What did that feel like to have that going on? The
Well, can I
forceps situation.
just say, I mean, this is comical, Paul. I always have this image of the moment that my son was born. My OB put his foot on the gurney and we moved across the room as he's pulling my son out. And I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. This guy is going to be a handful. And he was.
Was
Yeah,
and is, huh?
and is. Quite an amazing human being he is. Yeah.
Yes. So then she goes on to talk about the gate control theory. This is interesting. The reduction in labor pain through touch can be explained by the gate control theory of pain. Sensory perception begins in the spinal cord via sensory neurons, which can be transmitted to the brain for interpretation and response. Pleasurable, painful, and neutral signals travel at different speeds, with pain being the slowest.
Oh, yeah, let's endure that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasurable signals travel fast along large myelinated nerve fibers. Pain signals travel slowly along small diameter unmyelinated fibers. If the brain is flooded with biotouch and other forms of massage, the perception of the slow-moving pain signals is overridden by these other signals.
Oh, how interesting.
Yes, yes.
I will just simply say the women's bodies are amazing. Not that men's aren't, but men can't give birth, but women can. There's something totally different in that makeup.
Oh, I mean,
You
and
know,
everything you
it's
start
just
realizing with people who are talking more of it on a spiritual, emotional, physical level. I mean, the whole idea, even Zach was talking about the immune system sort of completely changes so that the woman's body doesn't see the fetus as a foreign substance. So it doesn't try to get rid of it,
yeah, isn't that
to
interesting?
assimilate it, and then the two the fluids, and it just goes on, which we don't have
Right.
time on this show to talk about
No,
right now.
no,
But
no.
she
But
talks about, Penny goes on to talk about changes in brain activity during labor. This is interesting. During labor, the brain gradually switches from a logical, rational left hemisphere orientation to an instinctive and instinctual right hemisphere orientation. As this happens, the laboring person becomes less able to think rationally and respond to complicated verbal communications. At the same time, they become more responsive to mental suggestions such as visualization and imagery, and to physical inputs such as biotouch.
wow.
So it's that, and because she then goes on to say, you have to be careful too, safety, because some women are they're agitated, they don't want to be touched, they don't like to
Yes.
be distracted, but the key is to do this prenatal care too during the
Yes.
time of carrying the baby, and we'll use the perfect example of the woman we had. She was an instructor, Lonnie, who was working with her daughter who was having a child, and Lonnie would work with her daughter all the time. The woman would come in to get BioTouch every Friday at 10 a.m. And after a while, that baby would start kicking and responding the minute you started doing BioTouch. And the very interesting thing, when Lonnie's daughter was going to have the baby, when do you think they were having it? It was Friday at 10 a.m. Friday at 10 a.m.
Wow, that just blows you away. Well, you know what? Years ago, when we were doing some volunteer work for an organization, I was we were offering BioTouch, and I did some simple sets on her, and then I asked if there was anything else. She says, "Well, I'm in my first trimester. I'm pregnant. Not a lot of people know it." And I said, "Oh, well then, of course, what I did the lower abdomen set." And during that time, she all of a sudden went, "Oh my gosh." And I thought, okay, now I know I didn't hurt her because that's impossible. I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "I just felt the baby kick for the very first time."
Hmm.
And I thought, that touch communicated to that baby something that it responded to. I mean, we think about the baby. There's already an intelligence in that mother's body, right? That responds and knows at some level. So, what I would like to mention too, as we're talking, the physical part of it, but what about the birthing experience in more of a mystical or spiritual type of thing? Because you and I know, and many of us know, that the birthing experience happens all the time. It's this newness, this beginning of a new cycle or a new way of being or thinking. And what it entails is this awareness of our bodies. Because as we have said, everything is held in that. So, we are asked to be the observers of our bodies and all that it holds. How we think and how we feel and our physical experience and expression. So birthing is a continuous thing. It has a gestation period, and then all of a sudden a newness comes. Well,
Right.
we have often said that BioTouch encourages self-awareness in the body itself, and then on all those other parts of ourselves that can respond.
Yeah.
And we have seen many times people literally begin something, a new journey, with that awareness. And make changes in their lives and start something new. So, we have to take into account birth has many, many different expressions.
And I'll go out on a limb here. That's why the new global community is going to be led by women who know how to give birth.
You know what?
And let's
I
make
will just,
BioTouch a part of that.
Yep, I will just say that the Dalai Lama has expressly said the women in the West are going to guide humanity into the new age. Isn't that an interesting concept?
Yeah.
Yes.
So learn BioTouch. Penny says it's great prenatal care, postnatal. Thank you, Bev, for being open and vulnerable with us today. Those were great
Sure.
little stories. Share our stories with you, and if you're going through the birthing process, whether it's bringing another human being into the world or your own birth of your new self, add BioTouch to it. justtouch.com, and let us know how we can help you birth your new self. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Bev. And
Thank you.
we'll see
Thank
you
you
all
all.
next week.
Days in and days out, space and time is all about feeling pressure with the pain, in sunshine or in the rain. Living is a place in mind, giving is being kind. When the pain is too much, what we need is BioTouch. When I'm touching you, you are touching me. It's a simple thing to do and a natural way to be.